There is a powder sitting on the bottom shelf of every grocery store in America that costs less than $1 per treatment. And it kills ceiling mold permanently, not masks it, not bleaches over it, kills it at the cellular level, and then leaves behind a chemical barrier so hostile to fungal life that new mold spores cannot germinate on that surface for months. After a single application, a roofer would charge you $500 to $1,500 just to locate the leak above that stain. A mold remediation company would bill you $2,000 to $5,000 to treat the surface underneath it. A painter would take another $300 to $800 to cover the discoloration left behind. That is $3,000 to $7,000 for a single ceiling, and the mold comes back within months, because not one of those professionals addresses the underlying chemistry, they address the invoice. The United States Environmental Protection Agency documented in peer-reviewed literature that a 2.5% solution of this compound completely inhibits mold growth, not reduces growth, not slows reproduction, completely inhibits it. The World Health Organization confirmed its safety profile for household use. The mineral that does this has been documented in human civilizations for over 1,200 years. The mold remediation industry in the United States generates over $2 billion in annual revenue. That revenue depends on repeat customers. A solution that solves the problem permanently in 30 minutes for under $1 does not fit inside that business model. They did not forget this existed. That would be an accident. They buried it. That was not an accident. It was a decision. This is the story of borax, what it does at the molecular level, and why it outperforms every commercial mold product. And why permanent ceiling mold elimination was never supposed to reach you. Welcome back to Science of Survival, where we open the vaults. If you are not subscribed yet, hit subscribe and the bell right now. This is where we dig up everything the industry tried to bury. And what the remediation industry buried about this particular mineral has been costing American homeowners thousands of dollars per year for decades. It is the 8th century, the high-altitude salt flats of Tibet. The air is thin and bone-dry, and the surface of a receding lake bed is crusted white. A Silk Road trader crouches at the edge of the flat and breaks off a fragment of the white mineral crust. It looks like common salt. It dissolves like common salt. But when he rubs it between his fingers, something is different. The texture is softer, the alkaline bite at the back of his throat is sharper, and when a trader in the caravan applies it to a stretch of animal hide, the fungal spots stop spreading by nightfall. The Tibetans called it tinkle. Soon it was loaded onto camel caravans headed west across ancient trade routes. Blacksmiths and goldsmiths in Persia and Arabia treated it as a closely guarded trade secret. The early Chinese documented its antifungal properties in medicinal texts that still survive today. Egyptian embalmers incorporated a chemically similar compound called natron into their mummification process. Read that again. The same chemistry used on a Tibetan trade route is what the Egyptians used to prevent organic decomposition for thousands of years. Two civilizations, separated by thousands of miles and no documented contact, that is not coincidence, that is chemistry, now cross the planet to pre-Columbian Mesoamerica, indigenous cultures were processing corn through nixtamalization. They used wood ash lye, chemically different from borax, functionally identical, high pH 0 mold survival. The Aztecs understood that sufficiently alkaline environments kill mold permanently without toxic fumes. Then Marco Polo carried samples of tinkle back to Europe in 1275, and the continent went mad for it. Venetian goldsmiths hoarded it. Glassmakers on the island of Murano built entire furnace operations around it. In 1856, John Veitch discovered massive deposits buried in the California desert beneath Death Valley. By 1883, William Coleman was hauling 10-ton wagons across scorching desert with 20 mule teams. Those teams moved over 20 million pounds of borax out of Death Valley in 6 years without losing a single wagon. The mineral was borax, sodium tetraborate, a naturally occurring alkaline salt with a pH of 9.3. For a century, every American household kept a box of it under the kitchen sink. It was the standard. The thing your grandmother reached for before any of these companies existed. This is knowledge that used to travel through families for generations. That chain broke somewhere, but it does not have to stay broken. Precise, clinical, authoritative. This is where credibility is locked in. Here is what happens at the molecular level when borax contacts mold colonies on a damp ceiling surface. Mold is a fungus. Like most fungi, it thrives in slightly acidic to neutral environments, typically between a pH of 3.5 and 7. Borax registers at a pH of 9.3. That is aggressively alkaline, far outside the metabolic survival range of virtually every household mold species, including Stachybotrys cartarum, the species commonly called black mold. When you dissolve 1 cup of borax in a gallon of hot water and apply it to a moldy ceiling surface, the alkaline solution penetrates the colony and disrupts the cell membranes of the fungal organisms. It interferes with the metabolic enzymes the mold requires to process nutrients and reproduce. It does not bleach the mold, it does not mask the mold, it starves and dismantles it at the cellular level. Research documented by the EPA confirmed that a 2.5% borax solution completely inhibits mold growth on treated surfaces. Let that number sit with you. Not 80% inhibition, not 95% complete inhibition. But here is the mechanism that separates borax from every commercial mold product on the market. When the water evaporates, the borax does not evaporate with it. The mineral leaves behind a thin crystalline residue. That residue maintains the alkaline environment long after the water is gone. Any mold spores that drift through the air and land on that treated ceiling cannot germinate in a pH 9.3 environment. They cannot feed. They cannot reproduce. They cannot establish a new colony. It is a passive antifungal shield that persists for months with no reapplication and no fumes. Now compare that to bleach, the product the commercial cleaning industry markets harder than anything else on the mold aisle. Bleach is sodium hypochlorite. It oxidizes the surface pigment, which means it chemically bleaches the black stain white. But bleach evaporates completely within hours, leaving zero protective residue behind. Within weeks, mold grows back over the exact same spot because the surface has no chemical defense. Hydrogen peroxide has the same limitation. It is effective on hard surfaces but fails on porous materials like drywall. It kills what is on the surface. It does nothing for what will land there tomorrow. Vinegar has a pH of 2.5. While it kills penicillium, research found it ineffective against aspergillus. Borax kills on contact, penetrates porous surfaces effectively, and leaves the only residue that prevents mold from returning. That is not a design flaw in those other products. That is the entire business model behind those products. Let the outrage build quietly, calm voice. These are just numbers. So why is this not in every home improvement store in America? Why is it not standard in every mold remediation protocol? Why has not a single contractor handed you borax instead of a $3,000 invoice? Here is what a $2 billion industry looks like. ServPro, ServiceMaster Restore, Paul Davis Restoration, BMS Cat, Rainbow International, Belfer Property Restoration. These companies and their franchisees generate revenue measured in the billions, and that revenue depends on one structural truth: the problem comes back. You cannot patent borax. It is a naturally occurring mineral that has been in the public domain for over 1,000 years. You cannot trademark a naturally occurring mineral compound. You cannot build a recurring revenue model around a $3 box that treats an entire house. You cannot charge $10 to $25 per square foot for labor when the homeowner can apply the treatment themselves in 30 minutes. You cannot generate a $2,300 average invoice for a single bathroom ceiling when the material cost is under $1. So what happens instead? The commercial antimicrobial sprays that remediation companies use are mostly oxidizing agents. They perform the same function as bleach. They kill surface mold on contact, they evaporate completely, and they leave no lasting barrier. If the moisture source is not corrected, the mold returns, the homeowner calls again, the invoice is generated again, the profit cycle restarts, retailers make higher margins on branded $12 spray bottles. Home improvement television programs receive advertising revenue from the companies selling those spray bottles. Contractors earn no commission on a product under $5, and so borax gets pushed off the shelf, out of the recommendation, off the television, and out of public memory. The system does not need borax to fail. It just needs you to forget that borax exists. That is not oversight. That is architecture, deliberate and sustained. Practical, measured, empowering. Every number is exact. Now here is exactly what to do with borax. Go to any grocery store or hardware store and find the laundry aisle. Look for sodium tetraborate, most commonly sold as 20 mule team borax. It costs between $3 and $5 for a 4-pound box. That single box will treat every ceiling in a typical 3-bedroom house with powder left over. Step 1. Identify every ceiling surface in your home that shows signs of mold. Look for black spots, green discoloration, or yellow water stain rings. If the stain is yellow, the mold is likely already growing beneath the surface where you cannot see it yet. Step 2. Put on a basic dust mask and rubber gloves. Borax itself is not toxic at normal concentrations, but mold spores are dangerous. Protect your lungs from the spores, not from the borax. Mold spores become airborne when disturbed and should not be inhaled. Step 3. Dissolve 1 cup of borax powder that is 8 ounces by volume in 1 gallon of hot water in a bucket. Stir until the powder is completely dissolved. The liquid should run clear. Step 4. Pour the solution into a standard spray bottle and saturate the affected ceiling area completely. Do not be conservative. The surface needs to be visibly wet. For a bathroom ceiling, plan to use at least 16 ounces of solution per square foot. Step 5. Let the solution sit for 15 to 20 minutes. Watch the discoloration begin to shift. The black or green pigment lightens visibly as the alkaline solution penetrates and disrupts the fungal cell structures beneath the surface. Step 6. Scrub with a stiff bristle brush or a heavy-duty sponge. The dead mold separates from the ceiling material. The discoloration lifts. The surface underneath is clean. Step 7, and this is the critical step. Do not rinse the borax off. Let the sealing air dry completely with the residue still on it. That thin mineral film is your long-term antifungal barrier. Rinsing it removes the protection. Leave it, let it dry. Step 8. If you want to paint, allow the surface to dry fully for 24 hours, then apply a stain-blocking primer. The borax residue bonds to the sealing material underneath the paint and continues protecting the surface even after you cover it. For maximum safety, address the moisture source before or immediately after treatment. If an active leak is still depositing moisture, new mold growth will eventually challenge the barrier. Fix the source, then treat the surface. One important honest limitation: borax works on surface mold that has not penetrated deep into structural materials. If your drywall is soft, crumbling, or warping from prolonged saturation, that section will need to be replaced before treatment. Borax kills mold and prevents regrowth. It cannot reverse structural damage. If the drywall is compromised, replace it first. Total cost for treating an average bathroom ceiling: less than $1 in borax, $2 for a spray bottle, 30 minutes of your time. Total cost for the entire house, bathroom, bedrooms, garage, kitchen, under $5, same box. Compare that to $2,000 to $5,000 for a professional remediation job using products that do not prevent the mold from coming back. That is a price difference of over 99% for a treatment that works better and lasts longer than what the professionals use. The ancient Tibetans knew this mineral killed fungus 1,200 years ago when they packed it onto caravans and sent it across the largest trade network the ancient world had ever built. The Egyptians used alkaline mineral chemistry to prevent organic decay across millennia. The Aztecs used high pH mineral processing to destroy mycotoxins before modern laboratory equipment could explain why it worked. Your grandmother kept a box of it under the kitchen sink next to the dish soap, and never called a single mold remediation company in her entire life. The United States Environmental Protection Agency tested it and confirmed complete mold inhibition at a 2.5% concentration. The remediation industry looked at the same results and built a $2 billion repeat customer business model on the assumption that you would never see them. This knowledge did not disappear. Someone made sure it stayed buried. The powder is still sitting on the shelf in every grocery store in America. $3 to $5, bottom shelf, laundry aisle, waiting for you to remember what your grandparents never had to be told. If this video opened something for you, subscribe now. This channel exists to preserve exactly this kind of knowledge. The next vault opens soon. What is inside is even heavier than this.